Hello, Greg.
Well, hey, Hugh.
What are you doing?
Well, I was admiring the almost full moon out there, so I thought I would give you a call and see if you have any news lately going on.
No, not at all.
Nothing interesting on in your life here lately. You've been posting some great videos about nature videos. Out looking at the rivers and taking your dog for a walk.
No, nothing at all. I hired a law firm in a foreign country because every time I try to take the people who murdered my wives to court, they murder my attorneys in America. So I hired a foreign country to file murder charges now.
That's a pretty big announcement, Hugh. That would be a pretty awesome thing to see justice come in your case.
Yeah, that'd be nice, but I ain't gonna wait. I'm not gonna hold my breath. It's been 10 years now. Look at, I got the cancer removed from my neck, Greg. See? Look at,
Yeah, I see it.
it's all gone. I'm not bleeding from the neck every day when I wake up. See, it's gone. Cool,
Hmm.
huh? I got
Oh
it.
yeah.
I got it removed from this side of my chest, all except that one little spot. And I got to go over and get the other side removed. I feel like I feel like dog pucky, but I'm doing better.
I'll take my shirt off too if you want me to, Hugh.
No, thank you. I don't want to see your ugly ass.
I would, Hugh, but I would look
I
like
wanna
that
know.
and everybody get
Oh,
jealous.
come on, turn him off. I want to know if you're going to show me
That's not
things like
mine.
that. Make sure
That
it's
is not
girl.
mine.
Show me the girl.
I did not put that there.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't.
not
I
at
don't
my
want to
house
see
right
it. I don't want to see it. I like girls. You know I like girls. Show me the girl wrestlers next time.
No, they're uglier than the guys.
No, they're not. Some of them are really nice looking. So I hear you got kicked off of Facebook again.
I've got 4 more days in my
Why?
loud mouth, but
What did you do
I was
now?
not.
What did you do this time?
I was not calling for civil war. They don't like. They think that I'm being disparaging to certain groups. Let's just say.
Well, what did you do?
Well, if I said that, then this video would get kicked off too, and then I'd be out for even longer.
Oh, well, this is my post, not yours.
Well, you don't want to get kicked
You
off.
know, if you keep getting kicked off Facebook, they're going to take my page down. Then how are you going to sell my book?
Yeah, I was not being thoughtful,
You need to keep
mindful
your
of my
mouth.
comments.
You need to keep your mouth zipped up.
Sometimes that's
Now,
easier
who
said
reported? Did your own brother report you again, or was it your cousin?
Yeah, you never know. No, I don't think so. This wouldn't have concerned them. They would
So
have
it was your
agreed with me
cousin
on
this
this
time.
one.
It wasn't your cousin this time.
No, they would have agreed with this post.
Maybe it was your mother,
No, she wouldn't do that.
your dad.
He don't have a Facebook account. He doesn't do Facebook.
Oh, that leaves your little brother.
You never know, but I don't think so.
My little brother stole my
He
own.
likes to watch wrestling.
You know, I created a trademark, and I hired a law firm to protect my trademark. And as I hired the lawyer, my little brother stole my business.
Yeah, I know. That's why you think my brother's going to do that
It's
to me.
interesting how family treats you.
Hmm.
You know, he and
Well,
and
you've
now,
had
now as an old man,
you relatives ask you to
he
murder their
doesn't.
husbands before.
As an old man, he doesn't admit to that anymore,
Well,
which
no, of course
I find hilarious.
not. But Hugh, you had a relative ask you to murder her husband. That's even crazier.
I know. I don't want to talk about that anymore because I didn't. And
Well, obviously.
now that relative loves her husband, so we don't want to talk about
Right.
that. Yeah, I come from a family that's treated me very well over the years.
Mhm.
That's why I moved so far away. I still haven't gotten over my older brother raping my fiance in front of our kids just before our wedding. But we don't want to talk about that because he's dead and buried. And so why bring up a dead man?
Right. Oh, if somebody wants to read about it, that'll be part of the story in your book there when we're done with it.
Oh, you put that in the book?
Well, yeah,
Oh,
got a lot of things in there. You still have chapter 1 review there before we go to the
I haven't had a
next thing.
chance to review chapter 1 because everybody on earth is trying to borrow money from me. As soon as they see I own Bottom Line New York, they think I'm welfare. I get like 900 requests a day for money.
Hey, Hugh, will you send me $5?
Hell no. Did you finish my book yet?
Well, let's get through the chapters and we'll go review and see how many mistakes I made first.
Well, when I get the book edited and you publish it, you'll have $5.
I'll have $5 then. Okay.
Yeah,
Good to,
yeah.
good to know.
Now you're like the 901 person to ask me for
There we go.
money. I'm serious. As soon as I put up my business on Facebook and registered the business on Facebook, I mean, nonstop, I get 900 requests a day. Lend me money, pay my phone bill, buy me a dress. You know, I get tired of hearing these things.
Buy me a dress.
Yeah, you want one too. You're a
Well,
guy, Greg. Guys, what are you buying a dress for your wife or what? I'm serious, Greg. It's nonstop. I get these messages every day. Buy me this, lend me this. I can't eat. I like the one a couple of days ago. I got one. A woman told me she needed to buy medicine for her kid, and then she talked to me the next day, and all of a sudden it was an operation for herself.
you start showing them a picture of, yeah, I remember that. You start showing them a picture of your house where you're living now, they'll stop asking you for money.
Well, you know, I'm just so so thrilled. It's amazing how everybody loves me
Oh, yeah.
until I
Yeah,
give them
maybe they love you a little
until I
less,
give
huh?
them until I give them an answer like I'm not welfare.
Yeah.
um, I'm here on Facebook, Greg, because 4 of my wives were murdered by the government, and the government has murdered dozens of kids around me for over 7 decades, and none of these murders are solved by design. And police and FBI are part of the murders, along with the White House and CBS and Fox News. And you know my story, but nobody else knows why I'm here. They just think I'm rich because I put a business up online and I'm a worldwide publisher with ASCAP and BMI. So they just automatically think I'm going to hand them, you know, $1,000 for nothing.
Well, it was interesting that you obviously have some influence, that people are paying attention to you, but they never admit to your existence, because you were talking to Nick Pope here a week or so ago, and the next day or the 2 days after, there he was on Sean Hannity, right
I'm
after you spoke
Fox,
to him.
yeah,
It's
I'm
amazing.
Fox. And you know yourself, I used to own all the contracts at Fox Entertainment before cable TV. Yeah, no, they don't know I exist, Greg.
Right.
When my wives
Right.
are murdered, it's always natural causes. They're missing ears and legs and arms, and their teeth are kicked out, but it's always natural causes, and they never mention it in the news.
Well, it's good to mention on video
They
about your
definitely
former
follow
lawyers.
me around so they can hide me.
We should mention here how your former lawyers have been attacked, because we need to mention that so that,
They're
if anything
murdered.
happens with
Are
what's
you
coming
getting
on,
attacked?
yeah, they were murdered.
Greg Burnbow,
Yes,
my former attorneys are all dead. That's why I hired a law firm in a foreign country. And I'm not saying what
right,
country, they're just gonna show up one day and start suing the
right,
White House.
right. So it's important to, announce to the world that this has happened, so that, if there's any foul play, that we've put this on record in advance that this happened
Well, if there's any foul
in the
play, I'm gonna
past.
shoot back, you know that.
Right, right.
I have a right to defend myself, you know.
Of course. Mhm.
So I have a right to carry a gun, and I do. I got lots of them. I'm just like,
Yeah. Hmm.
I played at Ted Nugent's club. We like to go bow hunting and shoot guns. And I have mine, and it's always loaded and at my side, so I shoot back.
You've seen that video I made. I was showing some of my family members how to shoot, and so we take care of ourselves too. So I definitely
Yeah. You
sympathize
and
with
I, we
that.
both carry. That's correct, and we shoot back. We have a right to defend ourselves in our own homes, especially when the government's murdering our family.
Well, what John Locke say? John Locke said we should have the same rights, at least, as any bear. To defend ourselves.
uh, I don't exist, Greg. You know that. Government always pretends I don't exist after they murder my wife or my kid. Remember when my family member Gerald Ford was president?
Hmm.
His real name was
Mr.
Gardner.
Gardner King.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm the Gardner and King families. And they murdered little Timmy King and then threw his body on Gardner Street when Gerald Ford became president. And that's one of the murders they covered up in my life. One of hundreds.
Yeah, by allowing a president up there and then trying to kill him. He was shot at too.
Well, they did kill my cousins, the Kennedys, 5 of them,
Hmm.
but I don't exist. And then they murdered my wives on the Manning properties. He just created the JFK archives with CBS. CBS destroyed my income as my wife's throat was slit. So that's all coincidence, according to the police that helped them do it. So, I always put these videos attention of the White House and FBI.
Hmm.
I've been doing that for 10 years now. But it's amazing how they just ignore me, isn't it?
Yeah, they do, but they don't. Yeah, they won't admit to your existence, but they listen to everything you say
Right.
and then go on trying to cover it.
And if I call the FBI about dead kids and their bodies dumped across state lines, they just hang up on me at the front desk. And I have witnesses to that. And that's because the family that kidnapped me when I was 4 still runs the FBI sex crime division. It's a real insider joke in the White House, I think.
So they're definitely aware.
It's real interesting. It's real interesting how Trump appointed Barr attorney general, and the Barr family lived next door to me when I was kidnapped, and they worked.
Well, there's that, and he also he showed up. He showed up right there in the county where your murdered wife Victoria was from, and on the anniversary of her murder.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, that wasn't a coincidence.
His tax attorney sold me the biggest farm in Utica, Michigan. It was like 7 square miles of forest, and the CIA and the senators were running a gun and drug trade on it. I stopped it, and then the Pope gave Noriega sanctuary in the Vatican was the end result. But I protected the kids in my neighborhood, stopping that gun and drug trade on the property I bought from Mr. Mazar. Then it's interesting how Biden gets in the White House, and then he appoints Garland. like Judy Garland,
Right.
the Wizard of Oz, and Osborne kidnapped me on the day they murdered Admiral Byrd. Murdered my twin, dumped his body in Pennsylvania. It's still an unsolved murder.
Within 24 hours after Ozhoff wins.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
that
the
means
Wizard of Oz.
that means that the Republicans and the Democrats are working together to hide my truth of who really killed the Kennedys. And then if
Yeah,
you
it's
go
really
back,
changed my perspective, Hugh. I'm not going to vote for either one of them anymore for president because I realize who they are.
well, you can't vote for the independents either because Paul was my
Right.
business manager at Bottom Line when DuPont stole the Bottom Line trademark and created the Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, and then you have Ron Paul and Rand Paul and
Yeah, and they sold me out
Jesse
to the
Ventura
Russian
in that
mafia.
party.
My oldest friend from Vietnam, Tony de Blasio.
And that's why Jesse
He
Ventura is in Russia.
he died of a heart attack after working with me at Bottom Line for 50 years. And de Blasio, a Russian man, he went into court, changed his name to de Blasio that day. My friend Tony Anthony de Blasio was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, they've covered all their bases.
Yeah, he was a
Republican,
decorated
Democrat,
soldier.
Independent.
He was a decorated soldier from Vietnam. Played bass guitar for me for 50 years. He dies of a heart attack, and a Russian man takes his name and replaces Giuliani after they blew up all my receipts in the Twin Towers and my civil rights case in the Pentagon on 9/11. It's very interesting how this government really works. How long do you think this video will last on Facebook?
Well, we've had luck with our videos so far. They haven't banned our videos, but
do you think that's
as long as you don't say anything,
because Mrs.
like
Gardner is Bill Gates' mother and Joe Jacobs is my father-in-law?
Yeah, there you go. Could be.
You think that's why? And he gave Bill Gates the software to make his first computer at my wedding in the 60s. After Joe Jacobs' daughter raped me. I was 15, she was 22.
Yeah, they know what you're saying is true.
Yeah, I was 15, she was 22. She came back a month later, told me she was pregnant. I told her I'll marry you, and then Joe Jacobs gave Bill Gates the software to make his first computer at my wedding. Interesting truth, isn't it?
Pretty powerful information.
It doesn't help me. They just bury me more and more and more. Oh, and I'm Gardner White. You got Gardner White furniture, you got Gates furniture, and you used to have Joshua Dorr furniture, but I found Joshua Dorr when I was about 11 years old. I was walking down the street and he was dead with a hatchet in the back of his head when I was walking to the Oakland Mall. But they don't tell you that either. So I know I know all those furniture company people. I'm Gardner White.
Right. I went to go visit some relatives in Wayne County this week, and
how are they doing?
Not in Wayne. They're not in Wayne County now. They were in Ohio, and I went to go see them in Ohio. But
well, I'm having a mountain. I'm having a mountain.
We got to talking. Yeah, Mountain Dew. We got to talking about Hoffa there because he's from Wayne County, and he's worked for the steel mills and stuff up there.
Oh, my family ran the foundry in New Haven. That was my family, the Lampkins family. And my aunt Gardner used to work for Lampkins. She was a CPA.
I didn't ask him the name of the factory.
Yeah, that's the biggest steel foundry in Michigan was the New Haven Steel Foundry. Biggest family.
It might be that one.
Yeah. We made the full.
But I'm amazed that even these people that lived up there, if he mentions, nobody knows where Hoffa is. Well, I mean, I know that you told me where Hoffa is, but when I start to explain it, just it's like people's eyes glaze over, like they just can't hear anything besides, the baloney that they've been told.
He's buried under my horse in New Haven, and if his body isn't still there under G&G Auto, they built on top of his grave, then they have me transfer his body to the meat market on Broadway in New York, and from there they transferred it in a barrel to New Jersey to a pharmaceutical company, and then they buried him is what the current story is. But I'm the guy that drove the truck with the barrels to New Jersey from New Haven, where Jimmy Hoffa was buried originally. Now,
Wow. Yeah, that's.
whether or not any of
I'm
those
glad we
stories,
revisited that. I think we meant to get to that last time and we didn't get to
yeah,
it.
we
So
never
yeah,
got to
that's
that.
good that we mentioned.
I don't believe any of the news stories simply because the old stories were two guys that worked for me, Miller and Toko.
Mhm.
They found blood in a house I bought for the Miller family and said it was Hoffa's blood. About 7 years after Hoffa disappeared and Miller wasn't there. And then Anthony Toko, he worked at the carousel. I rented a factory from the carousel called Shelby Service Center with Barclay and Carpus. And he was in a book and said that he had something to do with Hoffa's murder. The only thing wrong with that is both men worked with me at the carousel and Shelby Service Center, which is Jack Ruby's trademark. And my partner was Carpus, and we rented the building from the carousel, Ruby's trademark. And Toko.
Yeah, they wrote books and made movies with Scorsese and all this, and you were the one that was detained by the FBI that night.
Right. Yeah,
while your
I was
mother-in-law
detained
was
by the
with
FBI in my
Hoffa
Troy,
that
Michigan
very night.
driveway, coming home in my truck in front of my kids. And my mother-in-law was Hoffa's date that night. So it's real interesting how I don't exist in any book or movie, but the people that work for me 7, 8, 9, 10 years later, they're all into movies and books. It's real interesting. Yes.
Pretty obvious cover up. A lot like what they did to John DeLorean.
Well, yeah.
He ended up
Oh,
living in
John,
a small little place.
when I stopped those drugs and guns on the Mazar farm that was sold to me in the 80s, 79, I stopped the gun and drug trade run by the Senate. Kiki Camarino got murdered. Robert Tosh Plumley was my friend online till he disappeared in Texas somewhere. And he lied to me and said that Judith Laurie Baker lived with him in Albuquerque. And I talked to Judith on the phone the other day and she told me, no, he never did. So I got the guy of Fast and Furious testifying in the Senate, lying to me online with George Knapp, who wrote the latest book from Hoffa. But he told me he couldn't write about my murdered wives because it didn't have anything to do with Vegas. Well, gee, Gardner was married to Sinatra in Vegas. And I live with a woman now whose father was in the Navy with my father. And she ran Caesar's Tahoe in Vegas, but they can't mention my murdered wives because he can only write about Vegas, but he can write about Jimmy Hoffa in Detroit, but not me. It's real interesting, those premier people and coast to coast. It's interesting, Greg.
Makes me wonder who they really work for.
Oh, yeah, it really does. Really does. If I call into Coast and Coast, those new hosts, they make fun of me and laugh at me and make fun of me worldwide on Coast to Coast. So I don't call in.
Or they fire him the next day. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Hubert Wells was SWAT teamed and murdered while playing cards with me at Chrysler's. John B. Wells, they just fired him. He didn't make fun of me. They probably fired him because he didn't make fun of me.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His family member, Hubert Wells, was SWAT teamed while playing cards with me and his daughter. That's real interesting too.
Yeah.
They shot him dead at Chrysler Corporation, 9 Mile and Mound. I guess for playing cards. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, see, that happened a long time before the conversation with John B. Wells.
John DeLorean's son-in-law stole my trademark with President Kennedy's press secretary, Fletcher Nelson.
Yeah, and it happened around that time. It happened around the time that John DeLorean was arrested. So yeah,
right.
it really goes together well.
Time because I stopped the gun and drug trade. I stopped the gun and drug trade on my farm I bought from Mazar. in Utica, Michigan, biggest farm in Michigan. And they kidnapped my daughter off her school bus when she was 7. I found her in an excavation company, locked in a Caterpillar in a grader after school one day, rescued her. And then they told me it was her fault. She ran down there off her school bus in 3 minutes and locked herself in a Caterpillar. I'm supposed to believe that story. And they murdered the judge in that case, and they murdered my daughter's psychiatrist. I got her a psychiatrist because she was kidnapped, and they murdered him. At the same time, they murdered Judge Hunter D. Stair. And then the Macomb County Sheriff Hackle, he covered that murder up in the papers. Covered up my daughter's kidnap, covered up the murder of Kiki Kissel on Christmas Day, they've covered up the murder of Terry Heath on my birthday in 2003. They covered up the murder and dismemberment of my wife, Victoria Mellon. Her ears were cut off and then her throat slit, Halloween Day 2011. Then they covered up the murder of my first wife, Nancy Lavoie, as the FBI shot Lavoie Finicum in Malheur.
These are the
they killed her on the day.
Could fill
They killed her on the
100
day they let the Bundys out of jail.
Yeah.
My life's real interesting, Greg, and I don't exist. I never exist. This is all coincidence.
Yeah, you stop a drug trade, and then John DeLorean is arrested for a drug bust, supposedly.
Was he?
And right there, Time Magazine ties it all together with you when it puts his face and it says "bottom line busted." They're talking about you.
Yeah, my trademark, Bottom Line Publishing, New York. I'm an ASCAP composer, writer, and publisher. I have a publishing license from Foley Federal Court. Did you know Foley was the first person beheaded after 9/11?
Yeah, some pretty powerful cover-ups there.
Yeah, and they told you Muslims did it.
Right.
Yeah, Muslims.
And you got the pictures of it going on in the studio that shows otherwise.
Yeah, it was done in a studio in California. It's interesting how Muslims do all these bad things to Christians. It's real interesting in my life. They murdered 2 million innocent Muslims using my trademark Bottom Line and my money. I had 28,000 worldwide entertainment contracts, and people like Jesse Ventura and DuPont, Hulk Hogan and Steve Austin, they stole my trademark with Stanley Sandowski and Alan Pepper. And gee, Alan was a detective who was supposed to protect me. And I walked in on him screwing my wife in front of my daughter one day. He was real good protection. I guess he was covering my wife. What do you think?
Right. Well, he was covering her all right.
Yeah, he had her covered. Yeah. I didn't have to worry about her until they let the Bundys out of jail and the FBI shot her.
Right.
And you know, that Governor Osborne, his family still runs that FBI sex crime division right now. You know, the one that hangs up on me when I call about dead kids.
Yeah.
And you know I have witnesses to that. That's why they keep murdering judges and lawyers in my cases. Scalia, Judge Hunter Stair, Dr. James Brandenburg, James Bauman in Tennessee. They murder my lawyers, Greg. And journalists at CBS help them hide it. But it's just all coincidence.
Yeah,
it's just all
really important to get that out there today because we, that'll at least be on the record.
I don't know how long this video will last,
in the future.
But I'm cancer free now. See, Greg, it's not bleeding no more. And I went and saw the doctor, and he says it's healed up real good, and you don't have to worry now. So I hired a whole law firm in a foreign country, and they're going to be attacking the White House soon. Let's see how long this lasts. And you know, Kamala is using my grandfather's name now. Do I look Asian or black to you? You
I
see any
wouldn't think
black
so.
here? You think I'm a, what do you call it, a mulatto?
Yeah, that's it for sure.
Yeah, do you think I look half black, Greg?
Oh, you're definitely half black, half Asian for sure.
Am I? Oh, yeah.
Oh
You
yeah.
see my slanted eyes? You see how slanted they are?
Yep, I can
Well, I'm
tell.
100% European, and I'm related to Clara Harris, and she was Lincoln's guest at Ford Theater when the actor Booth shot him. And I grew up with the Lincoln family. And Ford has a Lincoln Town Car, and my uncle ran Henry Ford's Dearborn Mansion the day I was born. You know,
Right.
and then you had the president King and Gardner, who called himself Gerald Ford,
Why
who's
they
my
shot King
family
in a
member.
Ford Lincoln.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But Kamala, the Asian girl who's from Africa, is my family. And to cement that in place, uh, Biden appointed Gonzalez, a guy with my uncle's last name. My mother's sister married Gonzalez, who created the Texas Rangers long before I was born, and
Right.
he's
So
buried.
even that, he's still,
And
your family member.
Mrs. Gonzalez is buried in New Haven, Michigan, where the Duncan kids are buried. 5 of them supposedly ate arsenic when Agatha Christie, my other aunt, gave you a book called Arsenic and Old Lace.
I
That
think by Biden doing this, hiring Gonzalez to supposedly protect the border, so he
head
can
of
look like
ice. He's
he's
head of ice.
doing
Yeah.
something official, right?
Yeah,
He
he's
can
head
look
of
like
ice.
he's doing
And you
something
know that
right,
my
and
uncle
he's going to
Gonzalez,
betray the country.
Greg, my uncle Gonzalez, him and my aunt, Annabelle, their kids were run over by a semi in their driveway
Right.
at their home by a semi after my mother and grandmother, Mrs. Fuller, and 3 of her sisters and her brother Harold were all murdered by a semi leaving church back before I was born. My mother was 7 at
You've
that
been in a
time.
couple semi wrecks yourself, and
Oh yeah,
interestingly
they
enough, so
hit
have
me.
I.
Yeah, they hit me and Kiki Nelson, and when she didn't die, then they murdered her Christmas Day. While I was gone, I went to another state. They murdered her while I was in another state. Yeah.
Mm.
But a semis hit her and I twice from behind, going 100 miles an hour while I was stopped. Hit us so hard it ripped the seats out.
Hmm.
Interesting, huh?
I do know a thing or two about semi wrecks, and they are not fun.
Yeah, I drove semi all my life, and my family makes the Fuller transmission. I'm a Fuller family, but this is all just coincidence, Greg. I mean,
Oh yeah, all
you
this
know,
stuff is just
I was
amazing.
in the Teamsters Union on a day Hoffa disappeared, and the FBI they arrested me before they arrested
Hmm.
um,
O'Brien.
Chucky O'Brien, and Chucky O'Brien, Dr. O'Brien and Kathy O'Brien were my neighbors in Hazel Park, Oakland County, Michigan, where they murdered all those kids before they disappeared Hoffa. Yeah.
Right.
On the
Right.
day they disappeared Hoffa, they stopped murdering kids. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, that's just all a big cosmic conspiracy,
No, this is all
obviously.
coincidence, Greg. Every time I talk to police or FBI, it's just coincidence.
Mhm.
It's coincidence that Gonzalez, my uncle, is now head of ICE, and I stopped Kiki Camarino and Robert Tosh Plumlee's illegal gun and drug trade in the Senate just before 9/11 and Oklahoma bombing. Oh, and it's coincidence that Timothy McVeigh lived next door to me with John Nichols. It's all coincidence. And he blew it up in a Ryder truck, and Mitch Ryder is my brother-in-law.
Right.
It's
Right.
just
I
coincidence.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's just coincidence, Greg.
Right.
And you know, I have a billion coincidences every day. Spirit Airlines, Ryan Airlines, you know, it's all coincidence, Greg.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Coincidence like
that's,
Judy Garland and Judy
yeah. Oh yeah.
Baker.
Now Garland is the Attorney General
Right.
after Barr. And you know,
Yeah.
so I got all 3 parties hiding me, and they won't give me an attorney general that'll look into the murders of all those kids and my wives, or Jimmy Hoffa. None of them will say the truth. after I stopped their illegal gun and drug trade. I took a big bite out of them in 81, Greg. And
Yeah.
I'm proud
Yeah.
of that. I was protecting little kids. I took a big bite out of all the senators.
That's a huge, powerful thing for sure.
Yeah, and then my Uncle Frank, he died and donated his liver to science, and they covered up me stopping Noriega with Oliver North. Oh, liver.
Well, I hope
North.
all their crap gets exposed and a lot of justice is done.
Yeah, Oliver North. I'll never forget that. My Uncle Frank, he was with General Patton over there in World War II. And gee, all my murdered wives, their fathers were all in the Navy with Kennedy under my family member, Admiral Byrd, in World War II.
Right.
And I was kidnapped on the day he died. My mother told me he was murdered, and my mother's a nurse. I think she knows what happened to her own family member. And then when my wife, Victoria, was murdered, her ears were cut off with a paper punch in Johnson City, Tennessee. And then about 2 weeks later on Halloween Eve, they slit her throat.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and Admiral Byrd's kid was there, left me a note. The week she was murdered. I still got the note. I still have it.
So Admiral Byrd's family is not in the center of the earth, huh?
No, they were at my wife's bedside as her ear was removed illegally.
Sounds like that might be a whole another cover up.
With a paper punch. And there was nothing wrong with her ears. I took her in there because she choked on a drop of water to have her checked out, but she never come home again. They murdered her. They tortured her and murdered her there for 35 days. Slit her throat on Halloween Day. A gay nurse slit her throat, right? That's all just coincidence. So we should end it all on Terry Heath. I mean, you know, she was murdered on my birthday when McCain and Sarah Heath Palin were running against Obama and Clinton. Interesting, huh? They murdered my fiance, Mrs. Heath, as McCain and Mrs. Heath ran to be president. Real interesting. And they did it on the Manning farm, which I was handed for practically nothing. They wanted me there so they could murder my wives there, Greg. It took me about 12 years to catch on to that. I caught on when Tom Garrett destroyed my income, sent me computers from the FBI with Clinton's emails on them. And then I refused to send them back to him.
Yeah, that's Major Garrett from the
and then CBS, when my wife's throat was slit and my lawyer was killed on the same Halloween Eve in 2011, they put Major Tom Garrett on the takeout at CBS.
Right.
And you didn't know, well, maybe you did. I stayed down there at the Hemingway Museum. Hemingway was a journalist, much better journalist than Tom Garrett could ever hope to be. And one day I'm going to take Tom Garrett and CBS to court, and it's not far away because I hired a foreign country, a law firm in a foreign country, and they're going to look into all these things for me. They started, they already posted a murder case.
Good.
It's real nice, you know, to live in America and have freedoms like freedom of speech. I've never had.
Right.
If I call in or if I report a murder of a judge, they laugh at me. If I report a murder of a Teamster boss, I'm laughed off of coast to coast. My kids half my age, you know. It's real nice having freedom in America. And what about civil rights? You know, I had a civil rights case against the very family that built the Pentagon, the Grove family. I had a civil rights case against the Grove family on 9/11 when they blew up my civil rights case in the Pentagon, as they blew up bottom line receipts in the Twin Towers. 28,000 worldwide entertainment contracts in every country on earth, and the smallest contract was $80 million a year.
George Bush says your name from the White House that day.
Oh, did he? Oh, talking to my Uncle Mills? Oh, and
Yeah.
my naked girlfriend put Bush in that kindergarten class at Community Services.
Yeah,
And then
they
he
blame
blamed my
blame
friend,
the
the Voss family I was talking to online. They give you a Piper Cub flight over the Gulf down in the Keys.
right,
I live down there.
and said they trained terrorists. And they didn't even know how to.
Yeah,
They didn't even know
the
how to
guy,
fly
the
a large
little
plane.
Christian kid I was publishing, who owned the Fast Forward
And blamed him
video
for funding.
stores. Yeah, he
Mhm.
funded all those non-existent Muslims.
Yeah, because he owned a video store.
And then
Yeah, he
paid
really.
the
Yeah, he
Voss
had that kind
family,
of
my
money.
friend Debbie Voss, he paid, yeah, the little 17-year-old kid I was publishing paid the Voss family to train Muslims how to fly 747s and fly them into the Twin Towers as Bush slips and says my names. And my Uncle
Right.
Mills is filming him. Yeah, and
Right.
my girlfriend put him in the classroom. Yeah, real, it's all coincidence, Greg.
Right. Right.
You know, and then I like those
And Stanley Mills tells you not to renew your
yeah, I like those
publishing
9/11
license.
truthers who want the truth of 9/11, but I stayed at their house for 11 months, 7 months. They were supposed to interview me and they never did. They sold you
Well, maybe
t-shirts and coffee cups, but they never got the truth of 9/11 because I was sitting in their living room. They never interviewed me.
yeah, they didn't think they'd be able to sell anything, make
Yeah,
any
it's
money.
real
They did
interesting,
that.
isn't it? It's interesting.
Mhm.
And now that 9/11 group is coast to coast truthers with Nick Pope and
And
that's why I was
it's amazing that they don't mind that they even use their you know uh the coast to coast label and everything and
no,
design
it's
their
fine for
page with
them to use
all
it.
that.
Yeah, it's fine
Yeah.
for them to use it.
Right.
And I'm the guy that Giorgio Tsoukalos of the History Channel was giving a hug to. Nick
Yeah.
Pope used bottom line in the last movie he made. My trademark. It's real interesting, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. I think I'm gonna have to cut it short here. I think you. So
Okay, we'll let it go. I'm sorry if I woke your family up. You take
okay.
care. It was good talking to you. And remember, Greg, this is all coincidence.
All coincidence.
All
Everything.
coincidence. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
What if Judge Scalia wasn't really murdered? What if he just disappeared like Elvis? And they're all him and Judge Hunter Steyer and Judge Scalia and Jimmy Hoffa are all living on a UFO right now.
Right.
It's all coincidence.
Don't be surprised if they say that on Fox News this week now, just because you said that with
You
Nick
take-
Pope or something.
You take care.
All right.